Brightest blessings and welcome to MistykVerse, everyone. My name is Mandy, aka Mystica, and today we are doing our reading for March 27th. The card deck we have before us is not one I have actively used yet, but is certainly one of my favorites. This is the Archetype deck by Kim Krantz, and it delves much deeper into concepts of the soul than the other decks that I have used. The other ones are more everyday basic needs, but the archetype ones are much more expansive. They're more up for interpretation. And today's card is the Cave. When we think of the cave, most people think of just caves in the woods or little rock caves, or just hell, you may even think of stuff like spelunking and activities that involve caves. But spiritually, the cave is much deeper than that. We have, in Roman numerals, we have the number 32. Our numerological card number for the week of March 27th is 5, which is a number of intuition and restless energy, which is very fitting for the cave card. In the center, you see a bright light in the darkness, a pair of eyes, rushes all around it, and the hands, which look very welcoming to some degree, but to me they almost remind me of, now I'm going to leave the comments open for this because I am more than likely going to be wrong. They look similar to mudras or mudras, hand gestures that are used in yogic practice. To me, it looks similar to the one for Shambhala, which is a mythical city from like Himalayan folklore and things like that. It's a city of enlightenment, which is very interesting considering what the cave is able to be symbolized with. But what I find interesting, now I have a background in folklore, mythology, things like that. To me, when I look at the cave, I see not only a symbol, but what is also called a motif. A motif is an intangible concept. It is still deep and expansive in its meaning, but is intangible. We aren't able to always place our hands on it. While the cave can be physical, it can also be spiritual, mental, anything like that. Which brings me to the general concepts that I'm aware of when it comes to anything that has to do with a cave. Now, every time I think of a cave, I think of Plato's allegorical meaning in the theory of forms, which is a path to transcendental enlightenment. Now, to many, that's a mouthful, but enlightenment allows us to live a more fulfilled life. Not to say that no one else lives fulfillment in other forms, but fulfillment and enlightenment are very powerful aspects in many cultures. You see that in Buddhism and Hinduism. You also see it in Christianity and certainly other religions as well. I'm not as well versed in world religions, but I am versed enough to know that enlightenment is a powerful force. And he used the cave in this theory as a metaphor for the dim awareness of the true nature of things. So we are not always aware of the true nature of just about anything. Just as we are not always aware of the true nature of ourselves. Human life is like being imprisoned in a cave, which is our imaginary world, and the outside world casts shadows around us on the walls. The shadows are real-life experiences. This is a place where we seek our true selves in the dark, where the self and the ego are one. It's our inner darkness, our place of chaos. Many myths and legends center the world being created from darkness, from chaos. You find that in, if I recall, Greek mythology. You find that in Norse mythology. You also find that in a few African mythologies as well, if I'm recalling correctly. Now, Kim Krans uses the cave as a means of place in archetypes, because there are not only places, initiations, tools, and people. The archetype is very comprehensive. It's everything and nothing at once. A cave can also be a place of sanctuary, a passageway, a refuge, but is often known as a connection to power, a portal, if you will, a means of looking deeper. It's that deep shadow work that a lot of us sometimes fail to do. And as I said, that shadow work, that place of chaos, that's a really restless energy. This very mystical way of looking at things reminds me of, in folklore, there is a type of mythology. It's not a type of mythology, but it's actually a type of folk tale. It's called a marchen. It's a story of magic and wonder and the supernatural all combining into one. And regardless of those things, this is also a place of change. It's the center of the heart, a place of compassion and introspective. And that introspection is deep within the walls, deep within the rock, or within the confines of that place within the earth. It almost draws back to our connection to Ostara, which is rebirth. You see a lot of symbolism of hibernation right before the spring begins. And this just tells us that we are always so busy with our own lives that we're almost fearing to look within ourselves in order to be introspective, to come out of the cave. But sometimes we're also too afraid to go within the cave, to find where our cave is. And as Kim Krans puts it, where is our cave? Once we find it and we know where it is, we must tend to the fire. We must tend to ourselves, take care of those darker aspects, those things that we need to learn about ourselves. It's a very sacred center. It's a very sacred aspect of ourselves that we must look forward to. At the same time, it's a meaningful way to retreat into ourselves and learn more about who we are. I want to thank you all for coming along with me today. Have a good afternoon.